Okay, hi everyone. My name is Chelauna. I'm the Social Change Coordinator at the Society Against Sexual Orientation Discrimination, SASOD. These are two of our volunteers, Jamal and Kyle, who I'll let introduce themselves further. And we're just here to do a video blog on some of the documentaries that SASOD has created over the past 2 years.
The two documentaries we're going to be discussing today are Sade's story and what was the other one?
Selena's Voice.
Selena's Voice. There we go. Which basically highlight transgender women in Guyana and some of the issues that they face on a daily basis. In terms of basically just going about their daily lives, discrimination they face, just how their family, friends, just the man on the street, interacts with them, and basically what we think about it, our own personal opinions as well. So yeah, I guess let's get into it. Let's go.
So let's start on Sade.
Yeah.
Sade is the first.
In retrospect, we should probably have some sort of outline for this.
Oh, but what are our thoughts about Sade's story? What are some of the things that hit home for us? What are some of the things that were surprising? What are some of the things that we're alarmed at from the documentary?
Well, I don't think any of the what she was talking was surprising per se, because it's the kind of stuff you expect.
Yeah, it was.
Right, or at least you're aware that happens.
And well, I can't speak for anybody else, but I mean, as as a straight man, you're growing up, you're conditioned a certain way. I mean, someone once said, your first thought is how, is what you're indoctrinated into. Your second thought is, how you corrected that yourself. Because, I've grown up, I've always, it's always been, I grew up in the church as okay, well, being gay is wrong, but, you should still, love your neighbor, like they have in the Christian community and actually basically most religious communities, they say, being transgender is an abomination against God, whatever the case might be. When really and truly it's just who these people are, So you already have like a cultural disconnect right away,
Yeah.
and to really say that, okay, I can't relate to it, but you can sympathize, you can empathize with it. And you say, how can we make this better? That's the key. That's kind of what struck. That's one of the first things that kind of jumped out at me.
Yeah, same here.
I think further to what you're saying, what was kind of surprising to me, even though we know that these are the realities of transgender persons or persons who are differently oriented in Guyana, the extent to which the discrimination exists, to the point where people feel justified in harming or ostracizing persons who are obviously differently oriented. I don't know, I thought that discrimination in Guyana was a bit more subtle. I thought people still whispered in corners. Not to say that that's more acceptable, but I didn't think that people would ask persons to get out of buses or
that was
pretty shocking.
So that kind of and it having quite a few transgender friends and workmates and also persons who are lesbian, gay, bisexual as friends, and knowing that they can't step out of their homes and enjoy the same freedom that I enjoy as a heterosexual female. It makes you wonder if you really live in a fair society. Because if I enjoy it and they can't enjoy it, then
there was
I agree, because as a straight guy, I can't necessarily relate to this personally, but I have gay friends and stuff, dudes I've known for years, since before they came out and stuff, and I sympathize because I want
you can relax. He's
I
not
just
on the
needed
list.
to know.
He's not on the list.
Yes. I just needed
We need to speak about your unhealthy obsession with this young man.
I'm not talking about it more. I wasn't upset
Sure,
with
you're
him.
upset.
You don't want me to make this a little bit.
Bear witness. Bear witness.
This is being documented.
Yeah,
It's
I know.
okay, as I was saying, like my gay friends and stuff, I sympathize with them because I wouldn't want this to happen to anybody. It's like that, you know.
Well, I mean, you can, not to put everything on the same level, but it's like racism. It's basically like racism.
Racism
Sexism.
is just like another form of discrimination.
Right. I mean, it's all discrimination, but like these are key issues that all walk hand in hand. That Guyana just has real serious issues about it. Like racism. Racism is a topic that's only now being really openly discussed in 2015. I'm so serious. Like anytime someone brings a conversation up, like it's like you're the racist. Like I'm like, yo, let's discuss this, and like no. And the same thing with like
It's still a taboo thing, and
right, and
it's even more so.
Right, it's taboo, and it's apparently taboo to speak about it because now when we're raising issues saying like, yo, this isn't right, and they'd be like, so are you some kind of anti-man or
But why do you think it's so taboo? Like in 2015.
Because Guyana has a really pervasive culture of just it's hardwired into the culture to just be.
It's not progressive. It's just
Guyana. It's a very stagnant society. It's hard for forward thinkers for free thinkers to actually progress in Guyana, which is why Guyana has such a large amount of brain drain.
Yeah, but so here's my challenge. Statistics say that the majority of our population is youth. And I would like to think that youth have a more modern way of thinking, considering the level of exposure. I mean, I know that perhaps we don't have the best opportunities here, but I think most youth are exposed. There are so many institutions that are exposing youth to so many things. Youth Council, NGOs like YCG. So how is it that we are still stuck in this time capsule that takes us back like 50 years? We're talking about sexual orientation and gender identity is so taboo. Why? Like how?
Well, to
I
answer
think it's
that,
just this culture we have of holding on to
like the past.
sort of traditional ideals,
Which we see in our politics.
Yeah, basically that's a great idea. That's a very don't even get started. Like,
But that's not a point.
but I mean the same thing applies, man. I mean it's okay. You have progressive youth, and to us, progressive youth might seem a lot because we interact with people who I guess are like thinkers every day, but. Think about the large swath of people that we don't interact with. Think about, everybody who lives in Perdiz or Essequibo or, or, who lives up East Bank, who lives in town that you don't even. Are we really on? It's for the record. It's anyway. Who just live outside our circles. Our regular circles that we travel in, our regular circles of influence. So, it's easy for us to say, you know what, but there's so many forward thinkers, but there's so many other people who think the exact same way their parents taught them to think, and their grandparents thought, etc., that exist outside of our circle of influence. So now, for us to really gauge real attitudes and culture change, we literally have to step out of our comfort zones. Like we have to walk up on the main street, actually observe, speak to people and say, yo, listen, and you will be surprised. You're going to hear the same thing. You're going to hear the same thing from a 16-year-old, 26-year-old, and 56-year-old. You understand? It's amazing.
I think too, one of the things that we struggle with in Guyana, in our society, particularly as youth, and I don't know how many of you have read or have looked at videos about the dangers of a single story. And I think it's one of the challenges that we have here. We tend to rely on a single story or a single account of what happened or what should happen, what is good or what is fair or what is just. And we don't look at other perspectives. So documentaries like Sade's story and Selena's voice are kind of like breaking that mold. It's telling you the other side of the story. And I think it's getting people to think,
Well, one thing that stuck out to me in like Selena's voice was when she was saying like how what was it? Bus drivers trying to hear her down sometimes, etc. Whatever the case might be.
And throw bottles at her.
And I try to think of the narrative that could be going through these people's heads. Like, I mean, to encourage such hate, so to speak.
And that is the danger of a single story. That you should not like people who are differently oriented because it's wrong.
Right, because, I mean, they're probably going on to say, oh, man, you almost knocked down an anti-man today, whatever the case may be. Knowing that, you almost knocked down not an anti-man, but you almost knocked down
a person. Precisely.
Regardless of, who she is, that's what it's coming back to. You didn't knock down someone who was committing a murder. You didn't knock down someone who was harming someone, and you simply almost knocked down someone who was minding their own business, trying to get to work. And yeah, you're right. It is really dangerous. And one thing we need to worry about is how do you change a culture of non-thinking? To that of critical thinking. How do you teach people to critically think?
But not just thinking critically, but thinking objectively. Mm-hmm. Because most of our thinking has been conditioned to be subjective. It's based on our political values or on our moral values. But we don't... Our moral values. When really... Yeah, that's like a whole other discussion. But I think our thinking tends to be very subjective. Like, people are generally not objective in the way that they think. They don't think, like you said, I'm going to be harming another person. They think I'm harming an anti-man, or I'm harming what are some of the...
or she.
Exactly.
And also just like how you refer to persons, is also like, it can also engender violence. If someone self-identifies as, a female, cool. That's what you're introduced to me as, regardless of what's under the skirt. That's what you are. You understand? So I mean, insisting on assigning binary gender roles to people is in itself a form of discrimination. If someone self-identifies, I'm non-binary, we all post off, whatever, that's all right. That's your preferred pronouns, then that's what I should refer to you as, Yeah. And that's also another thing. But, man, there's so many facets to this thing, huh?
Yeah. I think it's just a level of exposure that people need to have.
All right. Well, here's what. Yeah, we've been here for quite some time, but we want to hear from you. So hit us up on the Facebook page, SASOD Guyana.
Comment on the documentary. Comment on the blog.
Check it out on Facebook. We're gonna check it out on Facebook. Check it out on YouTube. We want to hear from you. I mean, what do you think? What do you think of these documentaries? Watching both Sade's story and Selena's voice. Links in the description. Yeah. And hit us up. Let us know what's up, man. All right, peace. Yeah. You said it first. That's discriminatory.